Oh, thank you very much.
And we are live. Guys, I'd like to welcome you to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine, guys. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. Man, I have a guy on tonight who's been on my podcast several times. This guy truly is a class act. Now he's fishing the National Professional Fishing League, doing very well. And man, without further ado, I give you Hunter Baughman. How are you doing tonight, Hunter?
I'm good, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So you got to fish in a place I can't wait to go.
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
Santa Cooper is that's like southern Louisiana.
Yes. It's a definitely was a bucket list place for sure.
I mean, how deep was most of the water you were targeting?
Four or less, just about all of it.
Jeez, and
But
most of it was just
thousands
cypress
of
trees.
thousands of acres are 4 foot or less. That's the problem. There's a lot of water.
That sounds like the Atchafalaya Spillway.
Oh, I'm sure I had never been there, but I'm sure they're very similar.
Hundreds of miles of cypress trees and canals and lakes and canals. They're bayous.
Right.
And here we have Cajun Rob. It's our first comment. Cajun Rob Fishing, man, a good friend of mine, Cajun Rob from southern Mississippi, says, "Good evening, gents. Hunter is an absolute hammer."
Thank you, Cajun Rob.
Rob Welsh is a great guy. Great guy, that Rob Welsh. But man, so every time I go out with a guy down here, where there's 100,000 cypress trees, I want to hit every single one of them. I'm from up north. We don't have structure like this.
Right.
I'm like a kid in a candy store. Where do you start? What do you do? Well, I want a wacky rig. I want to flip every one of those. I want to flip every single cypress knee. And these guys, they want to power fish, man. They got their side lookers on, and they're throwing. What did you decide to do?
Well, it was kind of a crazy week. So I flipped on day one of the tournament. I weighed in one fish for 104. And then day two, I did that in an area. And the biggest deal, I don't have a ton of experience on like cypress places, but the experience I have when you get a bite, you're around fish. Like you need more bites in that area. There's not a lot of run and gun. You can't get around and move that quick. So you really need to put your head down and fish. And I got some bites in an area that I thought was going to be good. And I went in there on day one. I had one bite all day long, waded in. It was a little bitty fish. Day two, I said, heck with this. I turned and went up the river about 30 miles, 25 miles. And I shook some bites up there. I actually went to the trees I shook the bites off of and caught those fish. I had them marked. And stayed in that area and just I had a long day that day, spent about 8 hours. Just put my head down and fished. I turned the boat off when I got there, and I started it when I left the other way in, and I was just in the middle of the woods, in tree flooded trees. But I figured out a little deal there. To me, you need to find something different, and I found if you get a diagonal or a horizontal tree versus an upright tree, that there were fry garters on them, which weren't big, but I figured that out. I was actually looking at them with live scope on the trees, and you could see the little balls of fry. And I managed to scrape up a limit for a little over 10.5 pounds doing that. Still not good, I mean, I did, but it was tough. Like the 10.5 pounds moved me up. I don't remember, like 17 spots. I mean, it was tough. And then on day three, I just kept practicing. I just went somewhere I'd never been, put my head down. I picked up a frog, which I love to throw, and landed on them. It took me 3 days of practice and 3 tournament days, but I landed on them on the last day of the tournament. I had 21-1 with a 2-pounder in the box, lost a 5-pounder at the side of the boat. Should have had 24 or so. But and it was exactly what I'm talking about, though. It was all within a 100-yard circle. I mean, it just – go miles and miles and miles, and all of a sudden you hit the right little circle, and it was game on. And I had in practice, I had 8 bites in 3 days, and I'm talking about 12 to 14-hour days of practice. I had 8 bites in 3 days. 1 bite on the first day of the tournament. I had 8 bites on the second day of the tournament. And I had 10 frog blow-ups on the third day, so finally got around some fish.
10 frog blow-ups. Yeah, a lot of guys down here like those frogs, man. These guys are addicted to frogs. And, you know, I never saw somebody throw a frog in the middle of the day till. No, I did. Up there on BFLs and lacrosse, guys would throw frogs all day long, man. All day long they throw frogs.
A lot of times with the shade, that's the best time to throw a frog is in the middle of the day. You put it in the shade. But it was cloudy on us, so we didn't really have that. It was rainy, nasty about every day, windy.
Okay. That would change the way I fish because, you know, if I'm fishing cypress trees in a hot, sunny day, I'm going to concentrate my efforts on the shady side of the tree. It just makes sense,
right.
You know.
That's what, you know, you normally do, and then there's millions of trees, and all of a sudden there's no shady side, so then you really need to hit a couple sides of every tree. Yeah, I would like to go back. I think that's a phenomenal lake with giant fish, but
it is.
We were a little bit late, and it was very, very tough.
You know, when every place you look looks like textbook bass habitat, Louisiana, Sandy Cooper, all of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
All of Florida. I could not believe that when I first got down to Florida and my dad moved on to the Harris. My dad had a house right on one of the canals of Griffin Lake on the Harris Lake chain.
Yeah.
I was so excited, man. Dad, I'm coming down. You know, pick me up at Orlando, Stanford. You know, we'll fish for 4 days. I'm going back. I got down there and started, oh, man, look at this. And then started flipping. And where are the fish? I caught like 3 4-pounders in 4 days.
Yeah.
I was
Florida and
2-pounder, you know.
Right. And those cypress lakes, they're the old saying of 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water. It is completely true in places like that. It's so much water.
I think it's more like 96% of the fish are in 4% of the water.
Yeah,
and the other 1% are 0.5 pounds. And the others are only 0.5 pounds.
Right, that's right.
It's like you found out, you know. I found this, and I stayed there for 6 hours, and I brought in 20 pounds on this little spot.
Yeah, and and that same little area, I didn't know it till later on in the tournament day. But the same little area, the guy that ended up finishing second place was in there, and he had 21 2 days in a row, and I think 19 the other day. So there were a lot of fish in that area, you know, in that one little pocket.
Was there moving water in that spot?
No, there was not. It was a little dead end pocket. The fish, I think he was catching fish. There was grass. I think he was catching his fish like on the outside of the grass. I was catching mine way up, like there'd be grass, and then there would be the flooded trees up till you couldn't get to the bank. And I was skipping it. It had to be inches deep, and I was skipping it way up in there. And there was a lot of hyacinth that had blown up, and if you got around it, you couldn't get bit. But the little openings where there wasn't a bunch of grass, if you get your frog up in there quietly, you get a bite.
Down here, the secret is to find moving water.
I love moving
water. You can catch fish.
I mean, Arkansas River is home, you know, for me, and I love moving water. And there's some of that in places there. I just never could get that figured out. Doesn't mean it didn't work. I didn't figure it out, you know.
It just didn't work that time. Yeah.
Right.
Well, down here in the swamp, you know, I think it's probably a thermal preference. It might be a degree cooler.
Yes. Moving water, in the summer is usually cooler. And there's, man, the top end of Santee, it's just swamp. And there's, you know, little just places that current runs in and out. I went way up the river, a lot of current, fished the mouths, a lot of stuff, square bills, stuff like that in practice. I thought I'd catch, you know, like some shellbed fish, current related stuff, and it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. But whatever. I know there were some people that I'm sure current revolved around it a little bit.
Boy, that's, man, I don't know what I'd do if I found moving water in a swamp and there weren't fish biting there.
There was one spot, and that's particularly what I do. What? Hello?
That's a tough. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes, that is a tough situation for sure. I don't know if I'm freezing or you are.
Yeah, it's StreamYard. Yeah.
But yeah, I really wanted to find that, and actually I found one spot where there was a watercolor change with a big eddy at the mouth of a big backwater on a drop, and I fired a crankbait across there. I was catching big mussel shells every throw. It should be the spot, and I never had a bite there.
You found the shell bed with.
Oh yeah,
we just talked about 6 different elements of perfect bass structure.
Yes,
there was nothing there. Even a shell bed.
50 yards from the main river channel, in the mouth of a big backwater. It was dropped from 2 feet to 8 feet, and it had watercolor change on the drop and a big eddy all the way down the drop. And shell. And no fish.
Well, I would have downsized to like crappie sized jigs.
Oh, I know. You've got live scope, and I didn't see much around it either. I didn't get bit, and I didn't see any off the drop. I spent about 30 or 40 minutes on it, and I never had a bite, and I figured I just wrote it off. I wasn't up that way anymore, or I'd have stopped and fished it again. But it was way. I mean, it was like 45, 50-minute run from the weigh in.
That's how I started out bass fish. Well, other than going with my dad once in a while on the weekends, all summer long before I had to start working, man, I would be, walking across town to different streams, to an old pair of tennis shoes and a pair of shorts.
That's right.
You just have to learn how to read a river.
That's right. Because a lot of lakes that don't have current, wind will act as the current. You can relate that to a lot of places you go in the country.
Oh yeah, and if I got in a place like the Arkansas River, I'd be looking for current seams and any ledge I can find, and I'll beat a ledge to death because I know they're there.
Right.
All day long, all night long, all year long.
That's right.
They're there somewhere. I'm going to find them.
There are, and that's like all the jetties on the Arkansas River. They have a point on them somewhere on the upper side to where the current switches from going towards the river to away from the river. Those little dead spots are always money.
I have done 16th-ounce jig. I have caught amazing sized bass on.
Really?
In rivers, they seem to take smaller baits. Oh yeah.
Right.
In fact, some of the biggest smallmouth bass I ever caught. This was back when I was in the Air Force. I had no money. I didn't have fancy skills.
Right.
Or even a ruler to measure the fish.
Right.
But when you're whaling, you don't bring fancy stuff. You bring a pocket full of a rod. But I caught some smallmouth bass on little bitty jigs that were just huge, But I was young and energetic and just walked 2-3 miles down the river where nobody else could get to, and big fish.
That's right, for sure.
But you learn how to read a river. Just like now, I'm learning how to read a swamp.
Yeah, I still don't know how to read a swamp.
There's just even live scope isn't going to work all the time when you have 600 cypress knees between this cypress tree and that cypress tree, and there's only 10 feet between them.
The biggest deal for me with the live scope on trees, the biggest deal to me, I tried to, every time I flip, look at the tree as I flip, and I wasn't flipping at a fish, but it would let me know as my bait went down if a fish followed it down and didn't eat it to make more flips. I mean, that was the biggest deal. Other than the little deal I found with fry garters where I could see the fry. Most of the time I didn't see that until I got a bite there and I'd miss it. And I'd drop my poles and really watch and then start working my way around the tree and looking. And you could see that fry garter come up darting around. and you'd have to get where he was on the tree and then make 10, 15, 20 flips and get him to bite.
Now here's a question I've asked a lot of guys. So you cast out, you have what you know was a bite and you miss it. How do you recover? What's your next? What's your next move? Do you stay with the same? Do you stay with the same lure? Do you switch?
It depends what the lure is. If it's a frog, I'm gonna follow it with a Cinco or something that sinks slowly, or a Texas rig. If it's like I found those frag orders, if it's on a tree and I miss it, a lot of times I'm gonna just go stop and I'm gonna look with scope and I'm gonna make another flip and see if I can spot the fish and see where the fish is relating to the tree and try to adjust and catch that fish. It depends from there. I mean, a flipping bite, a lot of times I'll flip at it again. A topwater bite, a lot of times I'll follow it with something else.
Okay, good answer. I like that. Because I'm stubborn and I don't follow my own rules. And I constantly screw up when it comes to that. Because if I'm flipping out and I miss a fish, I'm throwing that same Senko again.
Right. Well, I mean,
there's
something like
a put that in his throat.
Yeah. The top water is a big thing. You want to follow it with something else, in my opinion.
Yes.
A lot of or swim jig, something moving quick, something slow. A lot of times, just the same flip will do it. And then if that doesn't work, you can change. And I'll tell you something else I always do, especially places like that there's normally a lot of fish in a small area. If I catch a fish, I will, put in live well or whatever, and I'll make another flip to that same spot to make sure there's not a second fish there. Versus just
I'll tell you something about smallmouth bass. When you're bringing in a smallmouth bass, if you're fishing a team tournament, have your partner cast him back at you because chances are there's, particularly in the springtime, there might be 6 smallmouth bass, even bigger than that boy, trying to take that lure out of his mouth.
Yep,
that is the most thrilling thing. You've seen that?
Oh yeah, we fish. There's a lake here called Greer's Ferry, and I mean the smallmouth are small, but they play a pretty big role in the spring. And you'll go for a while without a bite, and then you may catch 3 or 4 drops on them.
I've always wanted to go to Greer's Ferry and fish walleyes. I mean, I've heard there's just giants in there.
Yes, there are.
Geez. And that's really how I started out my fishing career, as walleyes. And so much fun.
Sure.
Then of course I started fishing bass, and it's just
I don't think I've ever caught a walleye on purpose.
On purpose. Just the walleye guys aren't quite as nice. They call a bass green carp. I'm like, how can you say that?
Right.
Bass are an amazing fish, and without professional bass fishing, there definitely wouldn't be any professional walleye fishing. I can tell you that much.
Right. You're right.
Because bass fishing, professional bass fishing, taught the fishing industry that this is a gold mine.
Right.
And that's what professional walleye fishing and professional crappie fishing came out of.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm old enough to remember when the Bassmasters was young,
Right.
And I would watch that on TV, and I told my dad one time, Dad, I want to do that someday. And he believed me. He's like, yeah, Go for it.
It's quite the.
I'm never going to be one of those guys. Go.
Do what?
Yeah, we're experiencing technical difficulties right here. Can you hear me, Hunter?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, I just got you back. We're having some storms coming through down here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Actually, it is 6 o'clock, so we're having our regularly scheduled 6 o'clock storm. It's a deep summer,
Right. Right.
We have at least one storm a day, either at 4 or 6. Any other storm's going to be bad.
Those afternoon showers, for sure.
Oh yeah, they're First time I experienced that, it's going to cool off. No, it just got hotter.
That's right.
This is not the north, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, so you're from Arkansas, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Central Arkansas.
And so around you have the big deep reservoirs like up in northern Arkansas. I fished Norfolk. I fished Bull Shoals.
We've got that, from my house north, we've got Bull and Norfolk. Greer's Ferry is really a lot like those. And then, the Arkansas River in central Arkansas, of course, Lake Dardanelle is part of that. And then as you go to southern Arkansas, you get into like Millwood, places like that with a lot of cypress trees and swamps. We've got a little bit of everything, really, It's
a big state, yeah.
We do in East Arkansas. There's as much tournament pressure. A lot of cypress tree, river, oxbow stuff. East side of the state, White River, Mississippi River related stuff, and then the lower Arkansas and southeast, it's got a bunch of cypress and stuff in it as well.
Do you catch a lot of giants in Arkansas? Stuff for 7 pounds or better? No. Okay.
No, really. There's some little places that are good, but for the most part, if you have a 5-pounder in any tournament in Arkansas, you're going to be close to big bass for the day most of the time. That 12 to 15 is always strong here about anywhere you go, and then say 16 to 18, 19 is very strong winning weight type for most places you go. Of course, we've got our little sleeper places that are local that take 20 every time, but they're far and few between.
Wow, that really surprises me because northern Louisiana, like Bussy Break,
right?
That area right in there, Caney Lake,
right.
They have some giants in there.
Absolutely. And then you got Fork. And then there's like Pines. There's lots of lakes there just out of Arkansas that have a lot of really big fish. We just don't. Millwood in that region of the corner of Arkansas down there, it's got big ones, but it's not like some of those other lakes.
Okay. I mean, I believe you. It just surprises me,
Right. And that's like I think Bull Shoals is the best lake in the whole state. And a 4.5 pounder there is a great big one. But there's so many 2 3/4 to 3.5 pounders. That's what makes it so great. Then the 4 to 5s are a lot harder to catch.
But Bull Shoals is another one of those deep. Is it as clear as Norfolk?
Yeah, it may be clearer. It's as clear for sure.
Okay.
That's the whole White
River, okay.
Yeah, basically you've got Beaver, Table Rock, Bull Shoals. Norfolk is not on the White River, but it's very similar to them. But you've got several right through there that are all White River lakes that are. It's just a strong fishery. The whole river, even the White River on down through eastern Arkansas to the south side of the state, it's just a very strong fishery with a lot of fish.
Boy, I would have thought that those White River bass would be huge because they can just chomp down on those trout all the time.
I know. Yeah, there's a small. So it's weird once you come out of Bull, I guess is the last one. It turns into White River. And trout fishing, and then you go a ways. There's a town called Batesville, and really, when you get the Batesville down, the trout kind of quit. Really, a little above Batesville, but anyway, around Batesville, the trout quit, and the bass get stronger. There's a lot of smallmouth in that area.
Yes.
And then as you get on down, say, I don't know, Newport maybe, and south of there, the smallmouth are pretty much gone at that point, if not before, and it turns into it's nothing like Upper White River. There's no, Upper White River's rocks and stuff like that. And once you get, on down towards the eastern side of the state, it's cypress trees and sand. and willow trees. Is just swamps. I mean, you got a lot of WMAs like Hurricane WMA, a lot of different ones down through here that just a lot of duck hunting stuff all the way down that White River. And then the lower ends of White River Refuge is so good to deer and duck hunt too. And it just, when that water comes up, it just spreads over so many miles and so many different lakes.
Boy, I've caught some smallmouth bass in the Buffalo River.
Yes, it's got a bunch of them.
That was a lot of fun.
Yes.
I was just waiting around in there. My parents moved after they moved out of the Harris Lake chain because the Harris Lake chain became too crowded for them when the villages opened up, and they just didn't want to live there in traffic anymore. And so they moved to Hardy, Louisiana, or Hardy, Arkansas.
Oh yeah, Spring River.
And Dad said, "Well, there's trout all over the place."
Yeah, they're little. I've spent a lot of float trips down the Spring River out of Hardy.
Yeah, that's where they lived in. Actually, they live in Cherokee Village, and he lived on a lake that had a few crappies. And I got there, and I spent a whole weekend making crappie structures. You just cut down 4-foot tall pine trees and in a concrete block, and you wire them together and
right.
Throw out 60 to those in a day, and all of a sudden, every crappie in the whole lake is in his cove.
That's funny.
Did that 3 years in a row. He had some good fish in there,
Right.
I told him crappies I love them, but I get bored real easy.
Yeah, they're fun about 3 or 4 times a year for me, and I'm over it.
Then I told him, man, I'm going to go to I looked at the map and I said, there's smallmouth bass in the Buffalo River. I can tell you that right now. So I drove over there the next day and caught some.
Yep, they're not very big either over there for the most part.
No, but
3 pounds or less.
But with a ultralight 4-pound test and a little jig, man, that's fun.
Yes, it is.
Because stream smallmouth are mean.
Yes, for sure.
They're just mean fish, and just the beauty of Arkansas, and just looking at the mountains, and geez,
it is. I love it here. I wouldn't live anywhere else in the country. It's a beautiful place. The fishing can be good, but the trophy bass fishing is not a thing here most of the time.
Well, in southern Louisiana, we don't have a whole lot of trophy bass either, because every few years a hurricane comes in and kills them all.
Right.
So you got to go a little bit further north of where I'm at. Try to get something 7 pounds or bigger, and I do that regularly. I still haven't caught one here, but you don't ever give up.
Right. Absolutely.
If I gave up, I certainly wouldn't have fished for BFL for so many years.
Is that right?
I knew a lot of guys. I mean, they'd be driving home and calling me, "I'm so mad. I have no money. And how am I going to get home?" Pull over to the next gas station. I'll fill up your tank.
Yeah, man, I love
that same situation, man. I've been. I don't want to tell my wife I spent a lot of money. Again?
Yeah, no, it's not a cheap sport, man.
No, it's not. It's not a sport for quitters, and you gotta love fishing. You gotta love it passionately, and it's not a sport for people who like to sit on the couch and watch football. It's just.
That's exactly right. You got to know your stopping point too. You can't let it ruin it.
Well, that was my problem. That's why I didn't fish tournaments for almost 10 years. I didn't know my stopping point.
Right. It's hard, man. I fished before I started fishing nationally. I was fishing 60, 65 a year. I still fish like 30 to 40 a year now locally.
60 to 65 tournaments a year?
Yeah, and I was done by October, and I didn't start till February.
So you're talking like 2 tournaments a weekend?
Yeah, well, yeah, normally during the week. We'll fish a Tuesday nighter.
Okay, Tuesday nighters. Yeah, okay.
I fish a Thursday series. It's a daytime single deal.
Okay.
But yeah,
I was thinking, BFLs, stuff
No.
like that costs $500. Wow.
No, just if you can catch enough to pay for the next one, that's all you got to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love those club tournaments. They're friendly, they're nice. You might have 20 guys at $50 a piece.
Right.
Yeah, you win one, you get your expenses back. You might win $600. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. The weekday trail we do. It's $70 or 75. I can't remember. It's individual and it's guaranteed 500. So it's pretty neat. Our Tuesdays have gone way down. We used to have 60 to 70 boats on a Tuesday with $50 a piece. So it was pretty good when you won one of those. It was several $100s, $1,000, something like that.
During COVID, those were going really well.
Yeah, we had a lot of tournaments during COVID. A whole lot.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I mean, people were coming out that COVID was over. Now they have to go back to work.
Yeah, that was
work.
Do what?
I told one guy, he saw him in Walmart. He was like, "Well, I have to work. Why can't you fish and work? I used to fish, guide, work, and I had kids under 5."
Yeah, the kids will slow you down too.
Yeah, well, that's why I never could stay married, because it never did. I'm obsessed, man. But
I got a good wife because I've got a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. Would they travel with me though, and that helps.
People ask me what it takes to make it in this business, and I say you have to have a great job and you have to have a better wife.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Because if you're missing one of those, you're going to lose them both.
That's exactly right. That is for sure.
Once you become upset, you can't think of anything else. And I told him, I said, this happened to me. My second wife and I were out having dinner, and a guy saw me. I had a radio show, and a guy saw me and walked right up to me, and she was so happy. I hadn't talked fishing the whole night. And she's like, "Aren't you?" And the guy goes, "Aren't you?" And I just saw she just put her head down in her hands, and I'm like, "Oh, I know it's over. It's over. Start planning your escape, dude."
No mercy.
But I have to say, God has shined on me now, though, because I have a wife who supports me in everything I do.
That's awesome.
Thank you, God. Thank you. I believe that's part of my success. And what you just said, that your family travels with you, that's, I don't know. I'm rarely at a loss for words being a radio talk show host. That's awesome.
That's the best thing, absolutely the best thing you can do if you've got family and you're able, when you're fishing, they travel with you. And then sometimes it's absolutely the most trying thing you've ever done. I'm telling you right now, on the way home from Santee last week, I was ready to just leave the truck on the side of the road. But it is, with 2 kids that small, you have to be understanding, because they don't travel. They travel really well for their age, but they still don't travel just great. But
I have trouble.
A 12-hour trip may take us 16.
It looks like he's back.
Oh, you lose me.
But no, we're back, man. But that's just, you're gonna look back on those times and you're gonna thank God for them.
Absolutely, man. I come in.
It looks like.
Do what?
No, go ahead, Hunter.
I come in from 14, 15-hour practice day, and I can sit on the couch and hang out with the kids and eat dinner with the family before I go to bed, and come in from a bad tournament day, and they're there to support me regardless, and that's what it's all about,
And I can't tell you how many days I've longed for that, come back to my hotel room and just sit there and alone.
Yeah, right.
It's and driving home, like I told you have to drive through the night to get home just in time for work to start. Pull up to my job with the boat still hooked on the back and walk in. And the only one is my boss will be sitting there. "So, how'd you do?" He didn't understand how frustrating that can be. Come back.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just
Yeah, I've
frustrating,
had
you know.
to.
But to drive home with your wife, man, you can. Wow.
Yeah, I've had to relearn how to travel. That's for sure. I mean, I've always been real good about running on no sleep and driving. I'd leave tournament, drive 12 hours home in the middle of the night, and we don't do that. We get up early, and leave the next day, and I don't stop unless I need fuel. Now we got to stop more than that sometimes, and I've had to relearn. On my travel, I've had to slow down, just take a breath, and it'll be okay. We'll be home when we get home.
You can't go 12 hours without eating. Yes.
Yeah, right. I'm like, get fuel, drop there at McDonald's, and never check up.
By myself, you just get you a milk jug, and you don't got to stop for those kind of breaks. And
That's right. That's right.
but you can't. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
And they all do really good. Like we rarely stop other than our fuel stops, but our stops, instead of being 15 minutes long, are hour to 2 hours long when we stop. By the time we get kids fed and changed and let them out of their seats for a while, I mean our stops are just a lot longer.
Oh yeah, they got to get out and run around. They got to get some of that energy out.
Yeah.
Where after a tournament, you have no energy.
Yes, exactly.
You spent an entire week's worth in 2 days.
Yeah. The 6 days, it'll wear you out pretty quick.
Yes. Well, Hunter, man, it's been an absolute joy having you on here. I love hearing stories about you traveling with your family and finesse versus power and shallow water. Do you have any shout outs you'd like to make before we close?
Absolutely. Just a few of my sponsors: Dias, Scrap Metal, Stick 5 Rods, new company that's around, American made, stick5.com. Y'all check them out. Man, there's so many: Blazer Boats, Mercury Motors, Brazalo Custom Lures. There's so many, but and they know who they are. But just thanks to all of them. Without all of them, I couldn't do it for sure. So y'all go check them out. Get on my social media: Hunter Baughman Fishing, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Just read through. You'll see everybody. They're all tagged on there. Y'all go check them out. Give them a chance.
Well, thank you very much for coming and taking time out of your schedule and your family time to come and talk to our viewers here on the Bassin Magazine podcast. Guys, Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. And with that, my name is Jay Angel. I'm the Bassin Magazine podcaster. Brad Yo was not present tonight. He is the owner. And with us tonight, we have very special guests straight to you from the great state of Arkansas, Hunter Baughman. Hunter, please stick around after I close the podcast. With that, guys, it's Wednesday night. Make it, because you only get to do this once.